everyone. Thank you for joining us on FinCrime in Focus. I'm Hui Kun, your host for this session, and I'm the head of sales for Asia Pacific region for Napier. Here, we aim to discuss issues that matter most to risk and compliance officers and to share perspective from experts in the field. What we share here will be applicable to banks, insurance, asset management firms, and other financial regulated services. At Napier, we build cutting edge compliance technology to help companies in any sector comply with AML regulations, detect suspicious transactions, screen potential customers and business partners, and help analysts predict customers' behavior. Our platform uses deep industry knowledge and advanced technology such as AI to help business fight financial crime more efficiently and effectively. Joining me here today is Jean from Basis Technology, and she's the Regional Director for the ASEAN region. Today, we will be discussing screening challenges and the technology behind screening system. Hi, Jean.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Before we start, John, could you tell us more about Basis Technology?
Yes, of course. So Basis Technology is the go-to AI platform provider for extracting meaningful intelligence insights from unstructured text and multilingual text. So what does that mean? Well, if you look at artificial intelligence, there are different technologies and subfields. Natural language processing, which is what we do, is one of them. But we specifically focus on text analytics, which is why we excel at it. Rosette, which is the name of our solution, is used to analyze text, but also understand identities.
So, based on your experience, what is one of the major screening struggles that FIs are facing?
Yes, so whether it's for onboarding or transaction monitoring, irrelevant results, that's a real issue. The use case is simple. They just want to verify if the name of their customer is in one or several of their watch lists. And they usually have several watch lists: US, UN, OFAC, MAS. It seems very easy said like that, but for those who deal with names and identity verification every day, it quickly becomes a burden. False positives and false negatives, they're a daily scourge.
So, what would you say are the major reasons causing these poor results?
Many, but I'll try to keep it short and keep it to the three most common observations that we see. The first one is that existing name matching systems, they're rigid. They usually rely on one method, and it's often rules-based, and it also includes a translation step, which we definitely do not recommend. But the challenge is that there's no universal way to write a name down. If you take the name Mohammed, for instance, you have it in Arabic script, but it can be written many different ways in Latin script as well. Humans make errors, they could be making a typo, and machines can also modify your name. Like there is a white space in my last name. Machines hate that. They take it off every time. So the volume and variety of names, that adds complexity too. And take your name, we could imagine it could be indexed in Chinese characters in my watch list. But when I'm searching for your name, I'm using my Roman alphabet keyboard. Very few systems can actually match names from different scripts. So what happens if the name variation is different from what your system knows? Well, you're missing a hit. That's a false negative. And this is dangerous and very expensive. Now, the second observation is that legacy systems, or how I like to call them, the old gen systems, they're not smart. They will return all the results that look from close or afar, like the name you're searching for. And these are your false positives. Many banks we talk to, they're dealing with 90% plus false positive. It's huge. So their systems are missing an intelligence recording step that will triage and disqualify. And when you have 90% false positive, it's actually disqualify maybe most of the results you're seeing. So relying on just one method, it's obviously an issue. You're not missing a hit, but it's your needle in the haystack, and this is time consuming. Now to the third observation is that existing system, they're generic. They have a fiddle model. It's been trained on a very generic data set and it's meant to work so-so for many languages, but there's no linguistics differentiation. That's obviously an issue too. You cannot analyze an English name the same way you analyze a Spanish name or a French name, or even less so, a Chinese name. So it doesn't take into account the origin of the name. It doesn't take into account the script. And what happens if your data is different from the data the machine learning model has been trained on? Then you will be getting very poor results. The false positives and the false negatives, they come from there too. And as you know, screening is obviously one major challenge that financial institutions are facing. What are the other priorities that you see banks defining for 2022?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As you mentioned, having false positive and false negatives are the number one challenge for screening. But also for transaction monitoring, which generates a lot of alerts. Now add this to the evolving regulatory requirements. It's tough. You will be surprised that many FIs today are still tackling the alerts via manual Excel sheets, eyeballing the results.
Yeah.
And this is clearly a tedious and prone to error manual process, right? You can never just trust the eyes, right? Or in some cases, it has been resolved with some in-house built tools, and that cannot keep up with the evolving regulatory requirements. And with regulators demanding the FIs having a more robust transaction monitoring engines, compliance teams are seeking effective solutions provider out there.
Yeah, I see. We see that too. And would you say that KYC reviews are also one of these 2022 priorities?
Definitely. KYC reviews are also major operating hurdles for most FIs because of the amount of information that they need to gather and they need to analyze, right? So taking a risk-based approach towards that KYC review has become a huge struggle. They cannot keep tab of the frequency of reviews as the customer grow in numbers. And the process has been manual and it's tedious gathering the relevant information for risk assessment. So the natural choice would be to hire more headcount. But this is not a long-term solution since the budget is always limited, isn't it? So as such, FIs are seeking options to enhance and automate the KYC processes. And to be honest, John, this is just touching the surface. There's so many other areas that FIs are looking into, such as fraud management, digital assets capability, verifications of UBOs, and many more. Fundamentally, the cost of compliance is rising, and in order to address the issues, they are under the pressure to adopt smarter technology that can help tackle operational efficiencies and effectiveness, and yet agile enough to adapt to new threats. So, picking up from new threats, we also witness how regulations can get much stricter and can change overnight. Let me ask you, how can a smart matching engine system support compliance teams in times like these?
Yes, and it's both the volume of fines and the amounts that are increasing. The pressure on compliance team is huge. It is really key that compliance and AML teams trust the tool that they use, and it's simply not the case today. And that's exactly why they turn to you and why they turn to us. They need to either replace or enhance or improve what they have. So I would say that a good solution is one that makes their life easier. And the major key differentiators in supporting compliance teams are adaptability, accuracy, but also explainability. Compliance officers, they need to justify their choices, their results to the regulators. And AI doesn't have to be a black box anymore. I would say that Rosette brings that peace of mind that a compliance team needs by being accurate, performant, tunable, but also explainable. Having a flexible tool that adapts to the uniqueness of the data, the singularity of the process, the bank's risk appetite, and also obviously the evolving compliance rules.
It's true that the peace of mind is priceless, isn't it? Yeah. So you mentioned accuracy and adaptability. So without going into technical details, can you tell us more about what makes a system smart?
Yeah, sure. And let's take the two examples, the two problems that we're seeing today, the false negatives and the false positives. First, one way to avoid false negatives is that you need a system that can analyze a name in its native form. So Rosette, for instance, it's applying different AI models based on your data, where the origin of the name, if you're analyzing a person's name or a corporation's name. And it will support many different variations, misspellings, titles, and things like that. But also, we have trained our engines on complex languages like Japanese, Russian, Korean, Chinese, Thai, Arabic. And you know that the training data, it's actually part of our IP. Now, to reduce false positive, then the smart step that I was talking about today, before, that's the step that's missing today. And it really helps triaging and rescoring the results and bring these numbers down. This step is where you apply the right linguistics models, the right AI models, but it's also a weighted multi-field search that takes into account other data attributes like date of birth, address, and that helps reduce false positives too. Now, you know that we apply different techniques, different AI models, and nothing's perfect. So our strength is that the flaws of one model is actually compensated by the strength and the benefits of the others. And as you know, Rosette is Powering's Napier screening solution. How do you see our name matching technology complement Napier's end-to-end platform?
I like this question. So name matching is a key AML process, but it also creates one of the biggest challenge for compliance officers, right? As you mentioned multiple times. The ability to reduce false positive and negatives require not only good collection of customer data, but also a high quality risk intelligence database coupled with a strong name matching engine, all working together. So as such, working with best-in-class technology partners like Basis and leading data providers like Refinitiv, Dow Jones, LexisNexis allow us to make an impact to our customers' day-to-day work. And as we speak more to clients, it has also become more apparent that bringing the KYC data and the behavioral data together creates a great value in terms of customer insights and analysis. And what it comes down to is how compliance team can better mitigate risk and manage the organization risk appetite.
But can they actually do that? Like take a more holistic, risk-based approach while supporting the business growth opportunities?
Of course, an example we can speak of is that compliance departments are leveraging technology to digitalize and transform their compliance processes. Besides, regulators are expecting a more stringent and proactive process in assessing customer risk. So FIs are required an end-to-end workflow to ensure a seamless and thorough policy enforcement, yet empowering them to make better and informed decisions. All this can only be achieved if you have an end-to-end platform that gives you a complete view of your customer.
I see. And that being said, then, how does Napier fit with these evolving requirements we were talking about?
So Napier is uniquely positioned to help FIs transform AML and take a more client-centric approach. We are built on newer technologies such as cloud-based and big data architecture, and having our compliance community in mind, we design our solution with AI and machine learning capabilities to address their workflow demands and exceed regulatory expectation so that they can fight financial crime and more effectively and efficiently. So that comes to my question. We embed your tool in our system, but you also have your own customers. When does a customer need one or the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's clarify that the technology that we provide and the one that you have, it's the same. So it really comes down to what the customer has and what they want. If they're looking for a system that supports almost all the major compliance functions, a user-friendly interface, then deploying Napier is a no-brainer. That's the solution. Now, if they already have a system in place and they can't replace it, but they really need that extra boost, right? They want to make what they have better. Then Rosette as an additional component is the way to go. Does that make sense?
Totally. Our partnership gives the flexibility to customer to choose the deployment and an integration they actually need. You know, we actually have one customer that uses both Napier at front end
Yeah.
all in one
That's right.
platform for end users and Rosette embedded into the in-house built backup level 2 screening solution.
Mhm.
And with that, we have come to the end of the conversation. Thank you, Jean, again for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Yes, great session. If you would like to find out more or discuss with us in depth about your screening challenges, please reach out to either Napier or Basis Technology.
Mm.
Have a good day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.